and welcome back to my channel. Today's video will be my April wrap-up. So I read a total of 25 books. I read so many physical books this month. It's crazy. I am so happy and proud of myself. Let's see if I can pick this all up. I don't think I can, but I read 15 physical books this month. Oh my goodness. I read all of these. I am so happy that I read all of these, and I'm going to talk about them all today. So aside from all of those 15 physical books, I did read 10 ebooks. So I had a really good reading month. I read a lot, read some pretty good things. Very happy with my reading in April. There's a lot to talk about, so let's just get started. The first book I read was Southern Storms by Benicia Cherry. This I gave 5 out of 5 stars. I loved it so much. It is definitely a new favorite. I feel like it's pretty tie with Landon and Shay. Part 1, so I love this book. This is kind of a friends to lovers romance a little bit. Also kind of childhood friends. So our female character is recently divorced and she moves to this small town where her sister lives to kind of get a fresh start, and she meets our male character. They don't remember each other, but they used to be friends when they were kids at this summer camp. So it's kind of like a second chance romance a little bit. This book was just so beautiful, and I loved the whole like sun and moon thing. I really loved that. And this book was just really emotional. It deals with a lot of tragedy in both of their lives. I just absolutely loved this book. Like, I don't know what it is, but I really loved it, and I'm not selling it, but trust me, it's amazing. Then I read Dirty Headlines by LJ Shen. Even though I've said LJ Shen is like really hyped, I still find the want to read her books. I don't know. So I read Dirty Headlines. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. It was kind of like a 3.5. It is an enemies to lovers. It follows this girl and this guy who hook up. Our female character ends up stealing from him, like stealing money from his wallet and stuff like that. And the next day she gets this job at like this really big company. Turns out he is her boss, and they kind of have like this rivals to lovers situation. I don't know. It just didn't really do it for me. There was too much drama between exes. I don't know. It was just like very LJ Shen. Then I binged a small trilogy, and that is The Empire of Lies by Whitney G. The first book is King of Lies, which I gave 3 out of 5 stars. This is a dark romance. It's about this couple that start dating, and he turns out to be like this hitman. And they get married, and he was supposed to kill her, but now he's trying to protect her. All of this stuff. If you read dark romance like very often, this is nothing new. This doesn't add anything new to the genre. I just felt like it was really underdeveloped because it is 3 books that are kind of like a novella, and I don't know why I continued because I didn't like book 2 nor book 3. It just wasn't anything special. So book 2 is Queen of Lies, which I gave 2 out of 5 stars, and book 3 is Legacy of Lies, which I also gave 2 out of 5 stars. And I feel like they were also very typical dark romance, and you could see exactly what was going to happen. It was very predictable. And then I read Dear Ava by MADDEN-MILLS, and this I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this. I'm pretty sure a few of you have recommended this to me. This is an enemies to lovers high school romance, like new adult. It follows a female character who was sexually assaulted, but she doesn't remember what exactly happened or who it was, and she reported it, and the whole town is basically against her now, and they are just really mean to her. She ends up getting these anonymous letters from this like secret admirer, and she's kind of enemies with the popular guy. I feel like I'm not explaining this book very well either. I'm so sorry. It definitely was a lot darker than I thought it was. When people recommended this to me, like I just thought it was going to be like a somewhat of a bully romance or like enemies to lovers, but it definitely was a lot darker, and I think if I would reread it, I would love it even more. Because I was kind of on the fence about if I should give it 3 stars or 4. I ended up going with a 4-star, but I feel like if I reread it now, kind of knowing what to expect a little bit, I think I'll love it even more. Also, I do feel like the secret admirer thing was kind of pointless because, like, you know exactly who it is the entire time. There was no real mystery around it. I don't feel like that was honestly necessary in this book, but I mean, it was still really good. The next one I read is Written in the Stars by Adriana Locke. This I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I think I gave it 4.5 actually. I really loved this. I cried a bunch. It was beautiful and intense, and I literally bawled my eyes out. I loved this so much. So this follows a married couple who are having issues in their marriage and dealing with money troubles and a lot of infertility issues. So they just are having a very rough time in their marriage, and basically they kind of just have this big fight, which leads them to kind of going their own ways a little bit, but our male character is dedicated to making it work and wanting the female character to kind of fall back in love with him, and I really loved this book. I thought it was so beautiful. A perfect book for the right time. I really, really loved it. Then I finally read Twice in a Blue Moon by Christina Lauren, which I gave 3 out of 5 stars. This book wasn't bad, but it wasn't amazing. This one just doesn't hit the mark. This is a second chance romance. So this follows our female character, who is the daughter of a really famous actor, but she has been kind of hidden away for most of her life, and not a lot of people know that she is the daughter of this famous actor. She goes abroad on this trip with her grandmother and meets this guy and basically falls in love with him kind of at first sight. They have this instant connection, and she shares this secret with him, and a few days later it gets leaked to the press and she never sees this guy ever again. It's like a flash forward to like 14 years later. Our female character is now an actress, and she does this movie, and she runs into the guy that kind of ruined her life, but that she had fallen in love with. Again, I'm honestly brutal with explaining books right now. I'm so sorry. I enjoyed the first half, and then when we flashed forward, I just felt like it was very off, and I feel like if we would have continued seeing our female character become an actress or like start her career, it would have been a lot more interesting, or like see when she dealt with her dad and things like that. It was like it didn't focus enough on the romance, but then also it didn't focus enough on the character's life, if that makes sense. And I also wish that our female character like actually had a conversation with her dad about like how he kind of like ruined her life at one point, and like she never stood up for herself, which kind of bothered me. Like, I understand your dad is that way, like you can't change him, but like maybe stick up for yourself a little bit. But like she never said anything, and it didn't seem like it bothered her, whereas like for me that would bother me. Like, stick up for yourself, and like just because he's your dad and you want to please him, like, I don't know. The romance was cute, but like nothing special. Then I read Bringing Down the Duke by Evie Dunmore. This I gave 3 out of 5 stars. I loved the romance in here, but other than that, I was very bored. I didn't care about the other storylines. This is a historical romance. It follows our female character who wants to study at university. And this is in 1879, by the way. She just wants to have a higher education, but obviously women going to school is not looked at in this era. Oh yeah, she becomes part of the women's suffrage movement. They have to like approach men and to try to hear them out and everything. And she approaches Montgomery, who is a very high-powered guy, and he's immediately intrigued by her and has this proposition for her. I'm honestly really struggling to give summaries. Oh my goodness. I didn't care about like the storyline and the whole like feminist movement thing. I don't feel like it was shoved down my throat, but I just, like, it's not a storyline I care about really, like, reading in romance novels. Like, it was well done, but I just found, like, the storyline kind of boring and not much to it, but I did enjoy the romance. I'm still really new to historical romance, so I'm still trying to figure out what I like in historical romances and what I don't. And I loved the romance in here, as I said, but other than that, it wasn't anything special for me. Then I read The Honey Don't List by Christina Lauren. This was their newest release, and this I gave 3 out of 5 stars. This was really interesting and different. It follows these 2 characters who are assistants to this one couple. This couple have like insane marriage issues, and they are also famous because they have this home decorating modeling show. It's kind of like HGTV, you know, that stuff. Basically, they're like this famous, amazing couple on TV, and then in real life, they're just a mess. And our 2 characters are the assistants to them. They try to keep them under control, and they also end up falling in love. It is super short, so I just feel like it didn't have enough substance to it, and I feel like it just didn't have enough romance. I'm feeling like more and more of Christina Lauren romances aren't really about the romance anymore, and it's just like about this character's development, which is great, but it was more about the plot than it was the romance, and it just lacked for me. Like, I thought that both characters were sweet and their romance was really sweet, but there was just nothing super memorable about this. Then I read Best Laid Plans by LK Farlow, and this I gave 3 out of 5 stars. This was really cute. So this follows our female character who in high school was in love with her brother's best friend, and she wanted him to look at her as more than just his best friend's annoying little sister. And one night he kind of sees her for more than that, but sadly the next day he doesn't remember, and she's kind of heartbroken about it. And then she learns that she is pregnant. 4 years later, they're kind of reunited, and he has no idea that she has a kid or that they hooked up or anything. Like, he has no memory. He was like super drunk. So yeah, this one was super cute, and I could definitely see myself reading more from this author. And then I read Love Her or Lose Her by Tessa Bailey. This is the second book in the Hot and Hammered series, and this I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I actually liked this a lot more than Fix Her Up. This follows Rosie and Dominic, who are a married couple, and they're just having issues in their marriage, and Rosie decides that she doesn't want to deal with that anymore, so she kind of leaves, and it's about her and Dominic trying to work out their marriage, but more so Dominic. Like, Rosie's kind of already over it, and Dominic is determined to make it work and tries to do everything for her. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I loved the romance. I loved the characters. I know a lot of people didn't like this because Dominic is like this manly, alpha male, bossy man kind of guy, but I loved him, and I loved how all of the little things he did for Rosie that she never really noticed or like never really thought of, like, it just really warmed my heart. I don't know, I really love this. I also love reading books about like already couples and them just working through their relationship. I enjoy these type of books, so I definitely really enjoyed this one. Then I read Undercover Bromance by Alyssa K. Adams. This is book 2 in the Bromance Book Club series, and this I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I also really enjoyed this, and I enjoyed it more than the first book, which I feel like is a really unpopular opinion. Everybody prefers the first book, but I loved this. I laughed so much. Like, I literally laughed out loud. There was one part in this book that, like, I was laughing so hard. I was crying and I barely could see the page. Like, it just really got to me. So this follows Liv and Mac from the first book, but Liv works at this restaurant, I think. Yes, so this really famous restaurant, and she witnesses her boss assaulting one of the female employees, and she, you know, doesn't stand for it, and she gets fired. On the night that she gets fired, she runs into Mac, and she kind of explains the situation, and Mac is willing to help her kind of expose the chef, or like who her boss is, and expose the garbage of a person he is. This was a lot serious than the first book. It dealt with a lot more serious topics, but I really enjoyed it. It really worked for me. I preferred Liv and Mac over Thea and Gavin. I also loved how there was no excerpts of the historical romances or any romance that they were reading, because in the first book I found it incredibly boring. I was like, I don't care. Like, I read so many romance novels. I know how they go. I don't need to have like excerpts of another romance novel within a romance novel. So I liked how that wasn't in here. The whole scene when they break into the office, it made me laugh so much. Like, I love that scene so much. I cannot wait for the Russians book. Like, I'm just waiting for his book. But yeah, I really enjoyed Liv and Mac and their romance and the overall storyline of this one. Way better than the first book for me. Then I read The Right Swipe by Lisha Ray. This I gave 2 out of 5 stars. This was so boring. I just also didn't care about the characters. Like, I felt nothing towards them. It was so long and it didn't need to be this long. This follows a couple who hooked up. Basically, the female character thought that the male character ghosted her, and so she's kind of like held a grudge against him for like ever. And they end up bumping into each other at this dating app convention thing. They end up getting like roped together to do this project. Dating apps in general are just not interesting to me, like, at all. I don't know, I just picked this up because everybody was talking about it, and I haven't really heard the best things about it like either, and I understand why, because it wasn't anything special. I didn't care. I was just bored. Like, I just feel like it wasn't that interesting. I don't know. Then I read Leave Me Breathless by Jodi Ellen Malpez. This I gave 3 out of 5 stars. This was pretty cute. Like, I would say this is her cutest book, which is weird to say because Jem doesn't write cute books. This is like a small town romance. It follows our female character who is kind of on the run a little bit. She moves to this small town to kind of be in hiding. And then our male character is this former private protector, and he's kind of retiring from that, and he goes back to the small town that he lives in, and he bumps into our female character and they quickly fall in love, but obviously she's hiding a lot, and he, you know, wants to protect her because that was like part of his job, so he is just trying to take care of her. Really sweet, very typical, I guess, or very predictable in a way. If you loved The Protector, you will also love this because it follows Ryan, who is Jake's co-worker and friend. But I am happy that I finally read this. Then I read More Than Words by Mia Sheridan, which I gave 3 out of 5 stars. This is also a second chance romance, childhood, friends, lovers romance. This follows Callan and Jessica, who met when they were young children, 11 years old. They both had really shitty childhoods. They spend a lot of time together, get to know each other, kind of both fall in love as children. Then Callan kind of just disappears. And then years later, Callan is this famous music composer. He bumps into Jessica one night at this bar, but he doesn't recognize her. She knows exactly who he is, and he can't stop thinking about her, but then he slowly remembers who she is, and then they kind of rebuild their friendship, and it obviously becomes more. This book was really beautiful, and I actually really did love it, but like, I compare it to Archer's Voice, and I loved Archer's Voice a little bit more than this. I did love the characters and the romance. It was very sweet, yet like both characters were dealing with a lot. Yeah, it was just like a decent romance. Then I read Not the Girl You Marry by Andy J. Christopher, which I gave 2 out of 5 stars. I didn't hate this, but I didn't like it. This is supposed to be like a How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days role swapped. It follows our male character who works at this journaling company or whatever, journalism company, and he kind of wants to write the big stories, and his boss basically tells him like, I can't take you serious, and then he also challenges him to writing this article on how to lose a girl. So he starts dating our female character, who is also dating him because her boss doesn't take her serious and doesn't think that she can host and do these big weddings because she is not in a relationship, and that she's never had like a long lasting relationship. So they're both dating each other because their bosses kind of forced it a little bit, and they're both lying to each other. I gave it 2 stars because it starts off, just not on a good foot. Like, I was so close to DNFing this because I didn't like the male character really. He starts off the book saying like that he's this nice guy, and he talks about all these girlfriends that he's had and that he's such a great guy, and like he does everything for his girlfriends. And it's just like, I don't care. Like, why are you bragging? Like, what? I don't know. Their fake relationship just didn't work for me. They're both lying to each other. It just felt kind of gross that like they're both lying to each other the entire time, and they both did not know about it. I understand how our female character like really freaks out when she finds out, and she is like really angry and all of that, because like he essentially used their relationship and was gonna write about it and like have actual details, whereas her, like, she wasn't sharing it with anybody. Like, she wasn't sharing the relationship with a bunch of people. It was just like to please her boss. I feel like her feelings were a lot more valid than his, because he was going to expose their relationship in an article, whereas she wasn't writing about the relationship. She was just trying to prove to her boss that she can be serious about relationships. It really wasn't the greatest. I also really didn't like the writing or like the characters' voices, I guess. Then I read Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. This was really cute, really sweet. I absolutely loved this. The reason why I'm giving it 4 stars is because it was actually a little hard for me to get into it, but I still really enjoyed it, and I cannot wait for Danny's book. I'm so excited. This follows Chloe, who has been living on her own for a little bit, and she's kind of struggling with living on her own and not really having a life. She also has a chronic illness. I can't remember what it is, and it doesn't say on here, I don't think. So she's often in a lot of pain, and it becomes sometimes really hard for her to do things, but she is kind of tired of not experiencing things and having a life. And so she kind of has a bucket list, sort of, and she ends up getting the help of her, I was gonna say landlord. He's not a landlord. He just helps maintenance at the building that she lives at, and they both kind of got on the wrong foot with each other, but she ends up asking him for help with this, and she ends up in return helping him with his website for all of his art things. It is super cute and heartfelt. I loved both characters and their romance, and overall it was just a really, really good book, and I can see why people love this so much, because it is just really good, and I'm very excited for Danny's book. So yeah, definitely a new favorite. So the next 4 I read for a reading vlog, and I will actually link that down below because I'm not going to go too in depth about these books because I did it in that vlog. But I read 4 hyped YA books, and I just read them and vlogged it and reviewed them kind of, so I'm going to go through them really quickly. The first one is To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christo. This I gave 3 out of 5 stars, 3.5. I enjoyed it. It's a dark paranormal fantasy romance about sirens and this princess siren who has to steal a heart from a prince. Kind of like a loose, dark retelling of The Little Mermaid. Super interesting. Loved the writing. Very atmospheric. It was a great read. Then I read Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved this. This is a YA historical romance, sort of. It follows our 2 characters who are on a mission to catch this killer who is stealing body parts from women, like organs from women. Our 2 characters are trying to figure out who's the killer and all of that. Super interesting. Cannot wait to read the next book. I really enjoyed this, and definitely like a new favorite YA. I really enjoyed it. The other one I read was Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahurin. This I gave 4 out of 5 stars. Really enjoyed this one as well. This follows a witch who gets wrapped up in this drama and essentially has to marry a witch killer. And she is like secretly a witch, so she's hiding it. And our male character doesn't know that she's a witch, and she's also running from her family. It's very interesting. I loved it. Loved the romance. Can't wait to see where book 2 goes. Then I read Fury Born by Claire Legrand, which I gave 2 out of 5 stars. This was just really boring. I didn't care about the storyline nor the characters. It just really didn't do it for me. This is like a YA fantasy. So this follows 2 timelines. And we have our one character who has all of these like magical powers, and she was kind of hidden away, but her powers get exposed and she has to face up to them with the kingdom. And then the other timeline that you're following is a female character who basically kills people for money, and her mother gets kidnapped, so she kind of teams up with these rebels to find out what happened to her mom, and then she gets wrapped up in all this other drama. Also, I forgot to mention in my review that, is it Korean? How do we pronounce his name? I don't know. But he reminded me so much of the Darkling, and I freaking hate the Darkling. So I think that's why I like also hated this, because I was like, oh, it's like another Darkling situation, and I just really don't care. Yeah, I wasn't a fan of this exactly. Then I read Lessons from a One-Night Stand by Piper Rayne. And this I gave 3 stars. This was really cute. It was kind of like a small town romance. It follows 2 characters who had a one-night stand, and our male character is the coach at the school. Our female character is the new principal. So she is new to town and she's the new principal, and there is lots of town drama. It was super cute. I don't know if I'll continue the series. We'll see. Then I read Love Wrecked by KARINA, which I also gave 3 out of 5 stars. So this follows Daisy, who is going to her sister's wedding, and she meets Ty, I think that's how you pronounce his name, who is the best man, and they both get off on the wrong foot, and so they kind of have like a hate to love situation. They end up joining her sister and her brother-in-law on their honeymoon to this supposed other part of an island, and their boat ends up breaking down, and so they get stranded on this island. It was cute, but it was actually like really short. Like, it felt so much shorter than Karina's other books, and I've come to realize I prefer Karina's darker books. Her rom-coms or like lighter books just really don't work for me. This book didn't really focus on the romance that much. It focused more on Daisy and like everybody thinking she's perfect and all of this drama. Like, I don't know, it just had a lot of like family drama, not enough romance for me. I also like just wasn't a fan of the romance either. Like, I didn't really believe that they loved each other, so. And the last book I read in April was You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogle, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I'm kind of uncertain if I want to give this 4 or 3. Because I did like it, but I just feel like it's not memorable at all. This follows a couple who are engaged, and they both kind of want to end it, but neither of them want to give in. So they both do things to kind of annoy each other and get on each other's nerves so that one of them will break it off. On the back it says lovers to enemies to lovers, which is really how it is. I loved both characters and I did love their romance, but I do wish it was a little bit longer, I think. Now that I think about it, like, I do think it deserves 4 stars because I really did enjoy it. You could see like the characters both realize things about one another and about themselves, and I thought the character development was pretty good. The romance was great too, but I do wish there was a little bit more romance because it is very focused on them like both trying to end the engagement. I also really did love the ending, and yeah, the book was overall a really good read. So that is it for my April wrap up. I'm so happy that I read so many physical books. Hopefully I can do the same in May. Let me know how many books you read in the month of April and which one was your favorite. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, follow me on all my other social media, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye!